It must be David Switzer.
Schweitzer,
Switzer, okay. Either way, huh?
I've been to a lot worse.
Oh, welcome. Maybe the first thing to do is for us to introduce ourselves. John Party for the council.
Bianca, the attorney.
That's from the secretary. Nice to meet you.
Brian Dawkins, council. Dennis O'Keefe, mayor. Over here. Nice to meet you.
David Adopter, junior council person.
I'm John Lee, council.
Schwartzmar, council.
So we have a technical advisory committee, technology advisory committee, and you're interested in it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? We did get your resume. Part of it wasn't an actual resume. It was part of the. Yeah. Which is that worked very well.
Okay, I don't put PDF.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be honest up front, I wasn't exactly sure what this role would be. I'm kind of new to the community. My wife happened to see you guys had an opening. I thought it could be interesting to look into it, see if it's something I can help out with. Dave Schweitzer, my main role in life professionally is information security and cybersecurity. I actually currently am the manager of the offensive security for Major League Baseball out in Manhattan, which means I have a team of a couple guys and we basically hack baseball before hopefully that guy's hack baseball. So that's interesting. Previous to that, I was in consulting for about 4 or 5 years. Before that, I was about 12 years in cable television, actually down in Florida. Before that, I was in the train industry, so I've been bounced around a little bit. I'm actually fairly new to the area. My wife and I moved here about 18 months ago from Tampa. So.
You bought a house unseen.
No, actually, we rented a house unseen.
Oh,
We never really. My first time so I could be Pittsburgh is when I got off the plane to move here. I did it before, so.
Yeah.
And then about 6 months ago, we actually bought a house here in Western, right next to the hospital.
Yeah, and certainly your background in cybersecurity is critical nature to us as well as everybody's. Not like a natural fit. Council questions for David.
Yeah, first. Hey, it's going. Sorry, I was late. So here we work in cybersecurity as your background. Well, that's actually pretty valuable to have as we're going to two-factor authentication thing. So I think your knowledge in that might be helpful. You have a question about TAC? General or what it is?
I guess what would the role be? I mean, I want to make sure that I am right for the role as much as you guys try to make sure I'm right for it. You know, I don't want to like waste anyone's time or whatnot.
Probably the person best suited to answer that question is step out.
Oh, there it is.
I know John did ask Reed, when we first formulated the TAC, we came up with a list of issues to kind of focus on. The big one was cell phone coverage, which we're in the right now. But Reed said we'd get you that list. What was there any of the others on there, John?
Communication issues. The overall role of TAC is an advisory committee to council. It doesn't make any decisions in behalf of council, but it does certainly guide and give advice to council regarding technology issues. Some examples have been the cell tower issue, generally communications in a broad sense, which include radio communications between the police, fire, and EMS, which is a real challenge right now in Franklin Park because of the topography of Franklin. Even advisory issues as regards to our own server in-house and what we do and how we do it. We may turn over a task or an issue to that committee and could you research this and get back to us with some recommendations. The big issue for the last year has in fact been the cell tower issue and how to improve communications in Franklin Park.
Also, our website and
That website.
how the community interfaces with us on, you know, on our website when they're looking for information. I guess we've talked about trying to set up a more robust Facebook and other social media type presence where the residents can communicate with us better. I don't think we've gotten too far into that at this point, Reed, but
We actually have a page, we just haven't announced it yet.
Yeah. So we're just trying to become. Word transparent kind of becomes overdone, but more easily accessible to the community. Better ways they can communicate, because we actually get very, very few people that attend these meetings. And there's 15,000 residents here. If we have 20 people at a meeting, it's probably a lot. So, but the ones that want the information, there's got to be a real convenient way for them to get that information too. So,
Out of curiosity, you guys get a lot of people jumping on the Zooms that you made?
not a lot, you know.
Depends on the subjects of the agenda, but not typically a lot. And we're doing that more and more. We now actually record the public sessions. We have a public meeting, and then that becomes available for anybody who can store it, because it becomes available for anybody who wants to view it. That's why we tend to behave ourselves. Any other questions, Mayor?
Yeah, for me, I've never met a manager of offensive security for Major League Baseball. So I'm kind of curious what that entails and how time consuming it is, and are you stationary in one spot? Going all over different places? How does that work?
I guess technically I'm stationary because while technically my office is at the main office in Manhattan, I've been remote the entire time. I was initially hired in Tampa when I lived there. And I mean, that was the joy of being entirely remote. My wife and I decided for various reasons we wanted to move and find someplace new. And we ended up deciding Pittsburgh, and I just took 2 weeks off and then popped back up when I'm here.
Oh, that was actually your decision to come to Pittsburgh?
Yeah, no, we sat down and we jokingly tell people we put a map up and threw some darts at the wall, but really it was, we had various things my wife was interested in, I was interested in a change, and we kind of narrowed down and found Pittsburgh, and various things were going on. And we ended up not even having a chance to come up here, and taught, heck, let's just try it. So literally we got off a plane to move here, and that was my first time on
How about
soil.
that? So what was the enticement to come here?
Various things. One, to be really honest, my wife wanted to get out of Florida because she was from the Northwest, and every year for about 6 to 9 months, it sounds like hurricane season, and that terrifies her. Which if I was, not a native, I'm one of those weird people in native Floridians that, I guess technically I'm a Florida man, but so the hurricanes didn't bug me, but quite frankly, I was okay with trying to find something where it wasn't 90+ degrees 10 months out of the year. Like about the last 10 years, I think it was upper 80s on Christmas Day, and I was kind of over that, to be honest. Various other things going on, just it looked into crime rates in general, stuff looked good, the weather looked good. I mean, it was a drastic change from like even just down to say the geography of Florida versus here, so that was a nice change for us.
So you could have gone anywhere and anywhere, you picked here.
Yeah, yes, sir. I mean, I'll be honest, I put in some requirements of not wanting to go too far over time zone wise, because I am technically based out of the East Coast or the Eastern time zone, but if I felt like waking up early, I could have moved to Hawaii, but.
Well, thank you for coming, and we're happy to have you here, and thank you for applying.
No, quite welcome. And to answer your other question, offensive security, especially when you start referring to it in sports, sounds a little confusing, but it literally is kind of what I said, where we try to keep in touch with what the bad guys in the world are doing when it comes to breaking into websites or anything else along those lines, or even what people are doing. Like a big problem that's probably not too shocking is we have people try to do odd stuff with trying to buy up, tickets to games and fraudulently and then resell them. Basically, myself and my team try to figure out what people are doing, what techniques they're doing it, and try it ourselves first, and then figure out how to talk to, say, if it's our in-house developers that do something, how to fix those problems for hopefully the bad guys actually.
Wow.
So,
How many's on your team? How many work together?
oh, it's absolutely huge. It's myself and 2 other guys, and they've been working for me all of a year. So until about a year ago, it was just me.
Very interesting. Thank you.
You have in your profile, this position has had me concentrating on wireless RF testing. Tell us a bit about that.
Previous, yes. Well, RF testing in general, like say wireless network is always big in information security in general. There has been a little bit in the past with some clients when I was doing consulting that did get into some cellular stuff. So that's kind of interesting and something that's been kind of interesting to me. I won't lie, so I'm a master of that, and I've been away from it for a bit. So, general signal testing to see what's there, checking on various other wireless stuff between the more obvious stuff like Bluetooth down to Zigbee and other IoT kind of stuff that might be out there, scanning for that, checking security there. Some of that stuff, I mean, I keep wanting to say one of my favorite stories, the last consulting gig was actually broke into a bunch of cell towers by request, but that was less about RF and less figuring out how to fit in and get through some locks, but.
Very interesting. Anything else? Any more questions of us, Dave? No?
In all honesty, not really. I mean,
All right, well, that sounds like a natural fit. We do have to do the standard checks and we'll be in touch for sure. All right.
let me know if there's anything you need from me.
Okay, will do. Thank you for applying.
Thank you.
Welcome to Franklin Park.
Oh, I appreciate it. I've enjoyed it. There's a reason I'm coming here to apply. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, it's next. Stephanie.
Like David, I've lived here my whole life. You should go the whole life.
You would if you could.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't you bring us up to date with the tax, the wonderful committee, or the EAC, we love them. It's a great committee doing really good things.
Thanks. Yeah, I think I've been on the committee since around 2017, on council until 2017, since 2017. Bridge has asked me, I think, November, December to step up and be the chair. Jim was looking for a break, so I agreed, and here I am. And I'm very excited about it. I think some of our goals are to be, at least some of my goals for the EAC in the next year or two are to really become like a council of purpose. And we have a really strong team. We have very well educated, involved people in the community, a lot of former environmental consultants, former worked for the DEP, EPA, just attorneys. I'm trying to think. So anyways, we keep joking that we have our own consulting firm, basically, Franklin Park. So anyways, I think one of my goals is really to become a council with a lot of purpose. I want to really do a lot of, I really want to implement ourselves in Franklin Park, and we always, because everybody is so educated and knows a lot about a lot of these topics. We spend a lot of time talking about them on meetings, but there's only 7 of us on the meeting. Sometimes we'll have a guest or 2. So one of the big things that we just, with the help of Cindy and Rage, has got the webpage going. So now the things that we talk about and research and we can put those on the webpage. We have some stuff up there right now about bats and spotted lanternflies and what types of trees to plant, how to plant trees. We have some news, a news section, which is going to talk about the community garden. We have an events section. I hope to have 3 events per year that the EAC sponsors. So one in the spring, one in the summer, one in the fall. Our spring event is, I'm going to plug here for the litter cleanup on April 29th.
That aren't.
On Maclear. Yeah, on Maclear Road. If anybody can join, we'd love to have you. I know today you were at the last one and Reed was at the last one. We actually have a good RSVP list. And there's a photo too. There'll be a photo that'll go on the website. Good photo op here.
Your best too, right? Yeah.
So that's our spring. That'll be the second annual one. Last year was our first one. It was pretty successful. I think we had 30 some bags of trash and bumpers and car parts, and this will be our second one. And we have a good RSVP list right now, actually, too, which is exciting. So that's our spring event. Our summer event is going to be a table at the festival in the park, as we always do, which is kind of an education purpose there. And then our fall event, we're hoping is always going to be some sort of a working on the name, but like a green up day. So Acorn Park, before COVID hit, we had plans to, go in and do some stuff there with invasive species and tree plantings and, just some conservation, green space kind of maintenance things. That's been postponed for COVID, and then I had a baby, and then, so anyways, we're gonna be doing that on June 10th, because we can't do it in the fall because, of course, of all the construction that will probably be kicking off there at Acorn Park. So those are our three kind of events. And then just some of the priorities, some of the things we talk about at our meetings recently, education, how we can implement kind of educational events into Franklin Park. We actually have just had a call with Katie Stanley at Allegheny County Department of Parks and Big Swickly Creek Watershed, and we're going to try to get them to do a traveling thing. They travel and do educational things, so we're going to try to have them come to Franklin Park and do something here. We also have the community garden that a couple of our members are very involved in. Like I said, the website, that's going to be a constant, adding things to it. Hopefully we can get people starting to go there. Comprehensive plan, I'm on the steering committee for the joint comprehensive plan, as many of you know. So I've been kind of relaying, that what we talked about there back to the EAC, getting their opinion, relaying that back at the comprehensive plan meetings. Landscape plans are used to be a big role, I think, of the EAC before I started. There haven't been that many of them to review since I've been on it, maybe one every couple months or so, but we haven't reviewed one in a while. So, but that is, one of the things that we do. The bicentennial trees actually just came up. There was a document where they tried to document all the trees that were older than 200 years old in Allegheny County. Well, they did. I don't know if they got all of them, but a lot of them. And there were 17 in Franklin Park. So the EAC, obviously, we got really excited about this type of topic. So we're starting now to just kind of like verify if those trees still exist. And we're hoping that we can do something by the end of the year, something to put in the fall newsletter about people nominating trees that they find in their yard or neighborhood or whatever. And then we're hoping we can do something with that. Just to try and.
That's through Great Pittsburgh.
No, that was actually something that the county.
The county, for their anniversary back in 1988, put together a little booklet of all the trees in Allegheny County discovered that were over 200 years old. So we just took that.
So how did you find the 17, or did the county?
County did that in 88.
Yeah, they had a committee or something.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling there's more than that. But,
It did, by now there are, because a number of years have passed.
no.
But also would these be on private or just on municipal property?
Mostly private.
The ones that are listed are on private.
Got an old tree in
Yeah,
your yard.
that monster, like, you might be up there.
There's another one on,
John, me too.
King Charles. Yeah,
Oh, yeah, you do, that's right.
Yeah, you might.
Yeah, the silver maple that they say could be 150.
Yeah, I guess, at a minimum, if it's 11 feet around perimeter, you've got a good shot.
4 feet high.
Yeah, like 4.5 feet high or something like that. Chest breadth or something.
What do you mean 4.5? What's 4.5 feet high?
That's where you
That's where you
measure.
measure.
to
Circumference.
determine-
Oh. So I need a measurement.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, well,
I have a tape.
That's a project for us over there, John.
yeah, and Cindy knows last night or Monday night, we spent a lot of time talking about the different circumferences per species and digging into all that. So anyways, we're hoping to do
Probably
something
very.
with that. It does. It resonates. And then I think the last thing that I say for last is that we've started looking at different tree and solar ordinances within different boroughs and different states, because some states have some strong ones. And that's something that I just wanted to make sure that we stay very close with council, talking about. And, I think
Tree and what?
in solar
Solar.
separately, so
Oh,
trees
okay.
and then
Okay.
solar. It seems like there's oftentimes people want to put solar in, but don't really know how it fits into the ordinance, or it kind of doesn't, or there is no ordinance. So that's something we just kind of have on our list to look into. And then trees, it's always, you know, I think a lot of people get upset that a lot of trees are getting cut down and blah, 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 but the answer is always, well, we have to go back to the ordinance. The ordinance has to change before anything can happen with that. So, you know, we're like, well, let's finally start like looking into ordinances, and maybe we can get you guys some ideas and I don't know. start something
Please
there.
do, I think
So,
it's critical. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I know Cindy's been helping too. She talked with Beth Talon a little bit just to see what the process would be to even.
Max's. Hannah, I was gonna say Alyssa. Hannah reached out to me today from Max's office and forwarded me. So yeah.
Community garden is gonna be pretty much the same as last year. What changes or what's the plan of community garden?
The community garden, you probably know more. than-
Yeah, it's really not run through the EAC anymore. I think only 3 people from last year agreed to re-up, but we had a long waiting list. So we reached out to the people on the waiting list in the order that they contacted us to see if they want to get on. But we should be. We hope to be up and running by April 1st, but it was dependent on weather because a couple of vehicles back there, we're doing raised gardens this year.
Right.
So it'll be sometime relatively soon, I would say. That we'll be ready to go for planning. It'll be sooner than it was last year.
Still 10 plus.
Still 10 plus. But it'll be raised.
And I think Donna actually just put something on our website today about that, about the community garden. But Letty and Denise on the EAC are very involved in that, so we're always talking about it.
I just renewed my pledge, the second year now in a row, for the monarch butterfly, mayor's pledge. To the monarch butterfly. You get involved in any of that at all? That is with you guys.
We reviewed that, yeah, like last
will.
year. Yeah,
They
okay,
will.
yeah, I know there was some items on it. Yeah, keep me updated on what we need to do with that.
It's a milkweed seed, thank you.
We milkweed that.
Anything else?
Do we have, do we always? Are we that on our website? The monarch butterfly pledge is.
Doesn't appear anywhere on our website right now, so. But the right place for it would be under the EAC.
Yeah, we'd be happy to get it up.
Who does your website? You?
Cindy.
It's a page on our website.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, so, but you don't actually put the material up, you send it to us. and we-
Donna puts.
Funnel it through me and.
On our
funnel it
website.
to Donna and-
And we don't have direct access to anything.
But there's nothing about the monarch butterfly yet.
Not at this
No,
time.
not yet.
Any other questions for Stephanie? Yeah, you did.
Yep, just looking at the site, looks good, have to step page, I'll ask about the approved tree list. Do they update this often? They being,
The city of Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh Shade Tree Commission in Pittsburgh, yeah.
I don't know how often that Tree Pittsburgh gave us this list
Oh, okay.
from the city of Pittsburgh.
Yeah. So
We don't like it.
The person-
Yeah, I was looking for a tree, it's not on there.
Somebody- Franklin Parks, Franklin Park doesn't have an approved
Oh, yeah, okay.
species list. It's just,
What
think
tree are you
so.
looking for?
Yeah, suggested,
It's
right?
like
We have-
Costco?
When I was there, the EC had like suggested that we're deer resistant.
Yeah.
They have listed deer resistant. So,
yeah.
Also, I'm pretty sure they were resistant according to what they said, so I'm listening, I don't want to get it.
Anything else for Stephanie? All right,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much. Good
Okay,
report.
thank you all
Yeah,
very
we love
much.
that committee. Breeze. Come back. I need, next thing's pickleball. Yep, latest on pickleball, issue, seems to be somewhat of a challenge. Reed and I met with the, a group of pickleball players and Old Orchard residents, and the mayor. And we had, a good discussion, dialogue, presentation of concerns on both sides. And concluded that in general, things would remain the same as it is, with the potential that the pickleball players had some ideas about creative approach or an alternate approach to the use of the quote unquote noisy racquetball versus the quiet racquetball, pickleball. And we concluded that things would not change, but if they chose to do so, a group of pickleball players could make a proposal to the council to consider an alternative. My sense after discussions with the mayor and Reed is that right now things stand as they are and there's not an inclination to change, but that door is always open for dialogue, and that's kind of where we are at this point.
I think there was a discussion, right?
The pickleball players, the way it was left, there was a question of whether the residents would be amenable to certain hours where they could use a regular pickleball. There obviously were concerns about how you would enforce that. One of the pickleball players said, listen, if I'm in the middle of a game and the end comes, I'm not going to stop my game. But the pickleball players, I believe, are going to submit a proposal as they were asked to do.
They were asked to do if they chose to.
Right, which I believe they chose to do because they sent an email to you with questions.
Yes.
I didn't respond to those questions until yesterday morning.
Yeah.
So there hasn't been time yet to get a proposal to the council.
Did you not see this one on Sunday? You might not be on there, sorry. I didn't know.
No, I didn't see that.
We reported to
So I
Reed.
thought it was-
As of Sunday, yes.
That's just it. So it looks like there's two factions working on it at least. Two different.
What, I may have missed that too.
Yeah, from Cheryl Johnson. On Sunday. At least it says you on the address as well. Everybody else, what you gotta do. Awesome.
I think that's.
And it is mostly, there are several proposals, mostly based around different kind of hours.
There have been reports already about non-compliant play, including right when the courts open, basically on April 1st.
Yeah, along with pictures. So, okay, so we will defer and wait and see. Okay, Matt, review the April 19th meeting agenda.
Certainly. Remember to do your taxes the day before. In terms of public hearings, we don't have any, so that's good. First time in a while, the number of resolutions that are in your packet regarding grant applications. We can talk about what's on the report later, Act 20 ordinance. Wait till later or talk about it now. As we talk about it.
We'll send the grant applications, all four got in before 4 o'clock today.
All right. Yes, these will be signed and submitted to supplement the submitted applications. But the introduction for 676 forever, Ira Weiss's office has been our delinquent tax collector. We have a fee schedule that's in the ordinance. Recently, Janet Burkhart retired about a year or so ago. She sort of ran that. They recently hired one of my colleagues from about 10 years ago, Liz Sattler, moved away to Arizona or somewhere. She was with Gehring, Rutter and Bean back then. She's come back. I think she's taking over the delinquent tax collection department. over there, and she sent along a resolution with their updated fee schedule. I took a look at our ordinance, and it doesn't have any, references to updating it by resolution. So we started discussing, and I said, this hasn't been touched since 1998. I know there's been a couple acts. Do you have a model, ordinance or a model resolution that can turn into an ordinance that can make sure that we're documenting all the steps, because delinquent tax collections get more and more complicated. And so she did provide that, reformatted it for our purposes. It does have the fees that are charged, and these are fees that are paid by the delinquent, not the borough directly. So they do have to be reasonable, they do have to be set out in the ordinance, worded it so it can be changed by resolution in the future if there's just one or two things we want to change. And I think maybe sometime in the past, there may have been a resolution or two or those passed, but we want to make sure we did it all correctly here. So this is, revising and changing, is chapter 19. Replace it, and as you'll scroll through there's a lot more detail in terms of the steps and the notices and the costs and the things that are to be done before a municipal claim or tax lien be satisfied and paid off. But we don't need a public hearing or anything like that, so we will just introduce it for action in May. That's that one. We have a number of personnel items, as you saw. We will have the scholarship recipients. About that procedure, do you know the drill in terms of reading it? I think, isn't that how we've done? The junior council member has read the,
Yeah.
we'll give you the names. You don't have to pick them.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
That's why we're talking about names. That's right. Your friends.
Announce the names in April. The scholarships are awarded. Okay, so it'll just be you reading. Yeah, okay.
It's not like the kids are there.
No. That's about it.
Okay.
Max, the Act 20, what would be an example of a item we want to?
What's that?
Is there an example, like, I can't think of an example, is there an example of this is pertaining only to like fees, fees and unpaid?
Pretty much. I mean, both for taxes for the borough, real estate taxes, not earned income taxes, not LST, real estate taxes or municipal claims, which are if we do work because there's a stormwater issue, or we have the ability, a sidewalk that needs to be repaired.
Do it on their behalf.
What's that?
The borough does it on their behalf, and
Yes,
they're obligated to pay it, but they're not.
Or they didn't.
But they did.
they did. Yeah, they get just like a tax bill. You get the bill first. You get some time to pay it. If you don't, it gets handed to the delinquent tax collector to file as a municipal claim, and then the penalties go in place and the collection fees and everything.
Okay.
Pay your bills on time and avoid the delinquent tax.
I have a question on motion 16. Last time we did a proclamation, to my surprise, he said, Mayor, read the proclamation. So if I want me to read this, I'll do it, but I'd like to know if you want me to read this proclamation.
Leave it to-
Sure.
Okay, I'll be prepared.
I will say both new hires passed all of their tests, so they're ready to go.
Any more questions for Mac? Okay, staff reports, Cindy.
I don't know if you guys have my written report. I don't really have too much else to add. We did, our audit was filed with the DCED by January 1. I'll now work with Mayor just to finalize the other accrual items that need to happen between the DCED statement and the regular financial statement audit. We're waiting some information from the actuaries. Fixed asset information, so we're hoping to have that finalized by the end of May. Move into nonprofit audit season. The pension committee did meet last week with Monkenhoff in the committee to talk about, changes to the general fund's pension plan, so that's in round 2 of changes now, back with the actuary, so that's still in process. Oh, and the one thing that Steph didn't mention, that I'll just mention for the EAC spring cleanup, we did hear from State Representative Arvin Venkat's office. He will be attending the spring cleanup, so yeah, we thought that was pretty nice. So
I'm sorry, I didn't get that up there.
for the spring cleanup on the 29th,
Right.
State Representative Arvin Venkat is planning to attend.
Oh, good.
We got word of
You guys
that.
should pick up some trash.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I don't have anything else. Unless everybody else does.
Can you give me the the locations again at the times? Yeah.
Yes,
For
I
that,
will.
So I can
Yes,
have
read
some-
that email.
On McAleer, but I don't know where on McAleer Road.
Right.
I didn't, yeah, how many, so how many officers are out there?
That's a long road.
That's helpful.
I think they requested.
Spend all day in that stream. Spend all day in that stream down there.
Might find some fireman helmets.
Yeah. I know there's a tire in there from 1996. When they had a rollover and the tire disappeared.
But no Loch Ness monster back there.
Okay. More questions for Cindy? Gary?
I have a couple things to add in my report there. I just want to mention that, we started our chipping season this week. We normally can knock that out in like 2 weeks. I'll tell you what, this is going to take us probably 3, maybe close to 4 weeks to finish. That's counting, we don't have any bad weather at night too, so there's clouds everywhere. I mean, it's amazing how much is out there. I think it's probably the most I've ever seen. A lot of, not super big clouds, but there's small clouds everywhere out there. I want to mention too is, I talked before about the road salt. The salt, we were hoping possibly use a little bit more here in March, we didn't use it, so. The thing about it is, we have 1,500, almost 1,600 ton of salt on a minimum that we have to buy yet. So I'm kind of waiting it out a little bit here because they'll store this stuff. We can buy it up to Morton. We can buy it through them up until the end of August, and American Rock Salt, we can buy that through them up to the end of July. So, but we're gonna have to stockpile it sometime. Even if they store it for a little while, they're still gonna make us at some point stockpile what we have on the minimum order. So we spent actually the year to date probably right around $150,619 on salt through the winter. We have to spend probably another $122,553 to meet the minimum. But this is still way behind what we spent on a normal year. And then plus we're gonna start into next year with 1,500 plus tons on 1,600 tons on extra than what we normally do. So that's gonna be a savings for us too. So.
There's no way to tweak the minimum for this year, right? That's
Well,
what
the,
they call it.
the thing on the minimums of what we did is, the co-stars, you have to order early. So we normally order through 2 different companies, co-stars and anyhow, co-star, the orders are usually made at the end of January and the first part of February. And then we normally order 3,200 tons as a maximum quantity. We have to take like 1,900 of this ton to meet the minimum. But anyhow, we had to order that, so that was ordered in time. Now, the clog is due in another probably week here or 2. Make an order on it. I'm gonna go with what I did 3 years ago. We ran into the same thing. I'm gonna go with 0 on it. And we're not gonna order off them all this one. Because we'll still be able to buy 4,800 or 4,400 tons, I believe. 4,480 tons, I think, next year on a maximum.
What's the shed hold?
The shed holds 3,000.
So we'll about 4,500 tons.
Yeah,
We're gonna around
Yeah, under
this summer. It'll be under
1,600
by
under
charts
300
like
tons.
it is 3 years ago.
But it's gonna be a savings to start out with us, we are, instead of going into next
Yeah,
year.
we'll have enough
gas.
gas next winter probably on the ground. Sounds like it.
So at some point there, probably in the next couple of weeks here, whatever, if we get some time, I'm gonna probably have us start shipping it in and I guess we'll probably have to notify the rest of it over there.
Yeah. Let me know when you're gonna have it shipped in and I'll send her a link.
Okay. Another thing that I had on there too is, I know it's gonna come up here on the agenda, is the tree paving. There was a list, I guess everybody has a tree paving list. I'm just gonna tell you the 2 streets were added on. to the list that we have, just as something to look at with Georgetown Drive, a section of Georgetown Drive, which is off of Ranchville, or it's off of Westford Main end, into the waterfront corporate there. Small, short section, it goes out down past the church entrance or exit lot over there. Anyhow, that part of it there, I talked to Mr. Gary Sipple, and called me last fall about that. And wanted to know if it was on the list. Now, that road hasn't been paved since 1996. And he said he would, he was really pushing for it after we already made the budget last year. And I said, we already had the roads in the list. So I said, normally we go out in the springtime, we do a road tour, and things can either, the council will either say, yes, we'll do this road, or move on to another one. So we have that one, and we have the Fox Chase Drive. And we had another resident complaining about that section of the Fox Chase itself there. Those two pieces are probably a little over half a mile. Probably just a little bit over half a mile between the two. One thing I still haven't got any other answers from is the water line that's going on Anywhere Heights. The last I talked to them, they're talking June before they start. So, I mean, if we start and they don't finish that thing, we're never, and that's on the list to be paved this year. So that's over 3/4 of a mile right there. We'll have to possibly make up and move on other roads if we can't pave that this year. So I'm not sure when they'll finish that. Even if they even get it started, they just keep putting it on further and further down the line.
Yeah, I mean, it's been years, right?
Yeah, they've been planning on this water line for a few years now. It's just, and I think this has been the third year that we've been trying to pave that road. And which is good that we didn't pave it before, because they'd be destroying it anyhow. That I wanted to mention that part of it there. And then, like I said, even Gary Sipple had talked about that. He was one of the developers in the waterfront corporate site over there as far as doing the paving. He said
section would you say it was there?
it's a section on right across from Shell House funeral home there.
Okay.
There's a section that goes in from there,
It's down.
double lane going in, and then it goes into a 35-foot wide single lane. And then it goes down towards right past the exit, or one exit or something at St. John's. But he said it, he's kind of, and actually he even told me that too, that he would have his guys, we have some concrete work that's going to be done in there. He said that he'll have his guys do the concrete work if we plan on getting in there, possibly at some time to do. He said it'd be good for the amount of people he has in the building there, and the clientele that he has. He said the aesthetics of the building made everything a lot nicer over there. Trying to keep it clean, he says.
27 years.
I'm looking to our guys, we're looking to probably start our 10-hour days, probably 1st of May again, as we started last year. As long as council wasn't informing anybody, we can figure that and probably start our paving. If we can get into some.
Any concerns? No. We're good.
I think other than that, that's about all I had to add to
And let's just talk about yours.
Yeah.
Right, I was just gonna ask if now would be a good time to segue into that.
Complaining about the curb and gutter, the way it's being, the photos that we saw of the patchwork, yeah.
Right, so anyway, I received a complaint from the Glenchester development, which is going up toward Branch School, don't, right before, near when you get to Galen, the Glenchester's off to the right there, there's a road called Glenwood Drive.
Glenchester's off of Colby.
No, what's that?
You talk about Glenwood or Glenchester?
Glenwood.
That's off Branchville.
Yeah, Glenwood off of Branch School.
Yeah, Glenwood,
Did I say something
You said
different?
Glenchester.
Well, I think it's a Glenchester development, from what I
that's
understand.
Berkshire.
Not
Berkshire.
Berkshire.
Frank,
Okay.
Berkshire.
Okay, and my apologies on getting the wrong word.
Across from North.
But anyway, the complaint was just the look of the curb repair. And it's a checkerboard type look. And so I drove in there, and absolutely it does not look good. And also drove around other areas like Franklin Town. When in Franklin Town, we did some repair, curb repair there, the same thing. So this thing exists throughout the borough, and Deary and I had a conversation about this, anyway, we spent a lot of money on these, repairing these curbs. And we end up with something that looks really, in my opinion, not good. And maybe it's time for us to start considering, moving on to an asphalt curb, that's my opinion. So Gary, you want to take a little more?
Yeah, through the years, the last 4 years, or just to give you an idea on what we spent on curbs. And I've been getting a lot of calls from residents too, different areas could, I think it's just because we're doing more and more of them now since we funded out. They're seeing it a little bit more. It's coming, it's starting to be noticeable now. We've normally done this ever since I've been here. I'm here 28 years and we've been doing this piecework on curbs ever since I've been here. But anyhow, we spent in 2021, we spent $125,757. 2022, we spent $233,323. 23 here, we're going to spend at 169,969, and then next year's, which we're still doing some of it this year too, is 187,500,000. And that adds up to $716,550. If you take that and figure that, paving road wise, that would probably allow us to pave 2.76 miles of road. If you took that money and did that, but that's still a choice. Now, I mentioned this before back when Mr. Hogue was in here, as he was the council president, Jim Hogue, and he said that the reason that through the years that the council always talked about, they said it was a signature series. The curbs were something that they said that Franklin Park had, and they like to keep it that way.
We're one of the only communities that has concrete curb.
The problem with it is probably not when everybody on this council is probably gone at some point here. They're gonna have to replace all these curbs. I mean, it's gonna get pretty costly.
If we stay with cement.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, even the ones that are in there, because the ones that are in there, even the patchwork on the ones we did, at some point, those are gonna have to come out.
So what's describe the process of an asphalt curb and how that gets worked right in with the paving process?
Yeah, the asphalt curb would be done at the same time when you pave the street. As you're paving the street, you build up your paver has a wing that goes up on the side and builds an asphalt curb that goes along it, and it keeps the strength of it. And then, when you do your binder and then you back over to your top, it paves that too. So the only problem.
What do you do with the existing curb?
Yeah, that's the
Concrete
problem
curb.
we have with concrete curbs now. You can mill them off, but you still have a possibility at some point with that section of concrete that's going to be under the asphalt, you still leave some type of crackings there too. So the other way you can do it, you have to remove it, put sub base back into it, and then pave over the top of it. Or mill it, or have a milling company mill it off as they go through it.
But do you think, I'm a little confusing, do you think it would work to put asphalt over the concrete? Or
Well, if you milled it, you'd have to mill the curb off, you'd have to mill it off flat, you'd have to get it down. You have to get it down to probably 4-inch depth, 39 inches. To put a binder in and our top back over it, to build the curb up, so that's only gonna allow you to, that's gonna leave you about 4 inches of concrete still underneath the.
So that's a one-time thing that you have to do, but that sounds like it's expensive.
Yeah, anything we look at, it's gonna be costly and very expensive. Now,
Once you do that, then it becomes a natural part of putting asphalt. And when you repave, asphalt curves when you repave the road.
yes,
And does the curbing change the stormwater guidance that those concrete curbs?
no, it's gonna do the same job, it's just gonna, it's still gonna take the water and direct the water into the basins.
And
But
maybe this is,
but it's, there's gonna be money involved in it either way you do it.
and maybe this is too leading a question, but when you're looking at the repairs that the mayor's folks, sent us, it looks terrible. It just honestly looks terrible. Is there another way to accomplish it so it doesn't look like that?
Well,
It's just
we have
crazy.
talked, the mayor asked me about, he asked me about dyes and stuff put in it. The main problem with that is, you're probably in most cases you're never gonna match the old concrete in anything you put in there, so. Only that too, is you probably have to put that into the specs for the guys that are doing the curbs to say, hey, we want dye added to it. If not, we would have to be over there as the road department, making sure the dye got into the trucks. While they were mixing it, you have to mix it into the concrete, so, it's, there's not a lot of, not a lot of.
If you ever replace all of the curb,
Yeah.
you'd be spending millions of dollars a year just on curb work.
I mean, if you look at the curves, it looks terrible. I don't know if they aged in the trees.
It'll always be a little bit off,
Yeah.
but they do better.
Yeah, they're, if you go over into Sturbridge right now, they've done quite a bit of section going up into Sturbridge and.
We actually have
right
right
for
now.
us. You'll see that, I mean, there's a lot of,
All communications and documents have
Yeah.
been.
there's a lot of there.
Currently using that.
After a conversation with the mayor this morning, I did a road tour, Ben Franklin as well as Glenwood. And what I saw was the new paving looks fantastic. But it then brings focus to that piece right next to it that didn't make the cut to be repaved, but still is in somewhat of ill repair. I think the people are going to be doing a great job, but it focuses on the fact that there is a big gigantic job ahead of us. And I think we really need to deal with this issue. There's a status issue here. Historically, Franklin Park, you mentioned nobody around us does it, but that's been a status symbol for Franklin Park for many years. That we are the only place that has concrete curbs. Well, I'm not sure what that's worth at this point in time, but it is a history note, and we need to make a decision, but it sounds to me the overwhelming evidence here is that we've got to modify. Gary, where are we at this point in time with the contract commitment we decided to change? How quickly can we change this, or should we?
Well, we already have the newest, the contract that we just agreed upon, they started,
For this year?
they're getting ready, they're actually.
The good news is they're doing roads that we're going to pave,
Yes.
so they will be looking at those again for another 10 to 15 years.
Was there curb work planned there?
Yeah.
That's the positive, because removing the concrete curb, if we decide to go that route, we would be doing in advance of paving the road,
Right.
not just doing the whole borough at one time.
Yeah, you gotta use the word mill. You're talking about removing. it.
Yeah, they
Same
take a
thing.
milling machine, it's the machine that takes the asphalt off the road.
Right.
They can actually, when they're coming down, they can actually grind off that part of the curb too, because
Oh.
we've actually had them,
So it's,
the gutter line of the curb actually took out the gutter lines of the curbs on some of them because they were so bad. And they were actually overlaid years back that we actually did them again, so.
so that's.
I don't know, I mean, I can ask, I don't know, if Sean, if you've ever run into, anything like this on what we can do possibly on that, with the, what your thoughts would be?
Yeah, so I echo the very few, you guys may be the only one, in Pleasant Hills and South Hills, because they don't have any development requires concrete curbs to go in initially. We have had a handful of our South Hills communities, the old concrete curb that was installed whenever, the 60s, 70s, 80s. A lot of their road programs do take it out, put back wedge curb, they do overlay it. The repair program here is unique, because a lot of people don't have concrete curbs like this. It becomes a long-term maintenance issue.
We've actually got lucky too, because it seems like every year we get a new bidder, and they don't know what they're getting into. Because they bid low one year, the next year they bid high because they realize they didn't make money on the contract.
Yeah, and I took.
Then
this-
only lasts so long.
I took this guy, the one out there the other day to check the job, and he right off the bat, the first thing he said to me is, why are you doing such small pieces? Why don't you do the whole thing? I said, well, because you can't. By the time you put it in, you can't
If
afford
one
it.
likes to do the whole thing, it exponentially.
But that,
Price power.
Tom, you've done with stuff like this before. I'm looking at the number of cuts to make these tiny little square repair. That can't be efficient. That must be expensive, isn't it?
It is, that's what we're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a good theory initially going in that you paved the street multiple times without having to deal with a curb, but in reality, you might have got 2 paving cycles or 3, and then the concrete's deteriorated as well, so. I think Sean's right, that probably the best thing to do is look at this full removal of them, pull them out, or, I mean, maybe instead of patching them on some of the future ones, make a saw cut between the concrete curb and the asphalt, just pull the whole thing out. Put things in.
Sean, do they mill them? They mill them off like I was talking halfway, like part, down to 4
Actually,
inches.
in most circumstances, we've seen them pop them out completely, just tape it, curve out,
And
and
then
leave that joint below. I think part of the decision also becomes then, as you evaluate roads, if the curbs aren't so bad and there's just a handful of cracks, do we live with a few cracks? Pave it again and really focus on the roads that we're gonna have this patchwork of new, old. Maybe get rid of those curbs, leave the ones that have a few cracks for another cycle, defer that for 12, 15 years, that kind of thing, and chip away at it. I mean, there's not a magic wand here that 5 years we're gonna sit here and it's all gonna be by doing this curve. I think you really have to prioritize what makes sense for each road on a road by road basis.
So I still, hearing question in my mind still is, the milling machine is great at asphalt, but concrete has a harder factor of.
They use
10 to
different, they
1.
use different tips on it, right? Some of them use different tips. They use, the carbide tips, they have,
Right?
ones are made for concrete, they have ones are made for asphalt.
So you can actually mill concrete.
Yes, yes. Yeah, they're made to mill, they can mill concrete roads the same way
Okay.
as they can mill asphalt roads. They just use different bits on them when they change the bits.
Is there that milling is our process, you do it?
Yes, we hire the milling companies, come out and do they always, take off the 4 inches of asphalt. We put 3 inches, 2.5 inches of binder back in, 1.5 inches of, base back in. The top end is normally what we do, so.
And the suggestion you made, Tom, was actually like the sawing the whole thing out. That sounds like more expensive.
I don't think the asphalt goes over, the concrete doesn't go under the asphalt at all, does it? So I would just pop the whole thing out.
Yeah, you'd have to, that's probably the best way, either if you didn't know it, you'd have to take the whole thing out of there without.
We can look at what our options are. If that's the way council wants to go, we can plan for it for next year. We already have, I mean, we're underway with the contract for this year for concrete curb. And again, these are roads that we're going to pave. We won't be looking at them again for another 10, 15 years. So we should just go ahead and repair those curbs. Because we wouldn't be removing them any next contract. And then we'll look at next year, we'll look at what our paving program is and which roads you can start looking at removing curbs.
We don't have these on all the roads. I know
Right.
where I live on Full Road, it's wedge curb.
And also, what I noticed is like, if there's a sidewalk, yeah, you're probably gonna see it, but like I believe it's Dalton, which is the intersection to Nevin. There's portions that are just, asphalt, there's some asphalt, there's stormwater, and it's being guided through the asphalt. Yes.
So would we also for new development, and if we decide we would actually move forward with asphalt?
Yeah,
That's what
we would need to do that.
About to mention, yeah, the last time we had an in-depth debate, I believe in our SADA, we have construction details, and we're able to change those by resolution rather than whole public hearing and everything else. And so we had a resolution that was going to swap out for new development the asphalt curbs, but it failed by a split vote. And I think the mayor at that time, I forget if it was Rennie or if it was
That wasn't
Dr.
my.
Kip. No, it wasn't here ourselves. So that was the last time it came to a vote, and that was for new construction going forward. So dust that one off.
Feel like the sentiment's a little different now, right?
Not to change.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Is there any type of stability that you get, with the concrete, if it's all asphalt, does it crack more and slide away? I mean, I'm thinking of the country roads that.
The asphalt usually holds up, it holds up pretty good. I mean, it's done. If you go over, I think Diamond Run over there, all the streets in Diamond Run are all asphalt curb, except
Well,
Except our part.
that's how we train new officers when they're in Franklin Park by the concrete curbs. New officers when they're driving around. See concrete curb, it's Franklin Park.
How about that? It's fine.
That was perfect.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to figure a new way.
They're saying it's gonna get bad here pretty really soon.
What was the fire, vehicle fire? And they always gonna have to drive.
I mentioned the thing about the stormwater. I'm wondering if when we start moving to this thing, if the engineer can take a look at the issue of the stormwater and when we're doing the curve, in case there's something else that has to happen, at the same time concurrently. Because we've looked at this a lot. There's ways to move stormwater down the road depending on how the curb is and right that type of thing. So it might be worth at least putting in our notes that if we're going to be doing something different to the curbing, that we think about the effects of the stormwater to try and get a more efficient kind of process. Yeah.
Gary, are there any alternatives to concrete or asphalt out there in the marketplace? Is anybody using anything else in the material?
The old one.
Cobblestone.
This is pretty much a standard.
Question. Anything else for Gary? We received a nice letter from a resident, Victor Scolari, complimenting the public works and their tree grinding service. And it was very nice, distributed to council. Gary, I don't know.
I got it. I actually sent him the email back. Sometimes when I hit reply, I don't hit reply all, so everybody sees it. I end up,
Yeah,
I hit
that's
that one
fine.
right away.
What about you
I
guys?
replied.
Did you guys, are they aware of? the
Yes, I
call?
told him, yeah, they've got the last few days, they've got, quite a few different comments.
Yeah.
So we actually had one other thing too. We actually had a tree that fell down into White Oak, almost down into the detention pond from the
Oh,
one guy's property there. We had to, I sent the guys over today, they cut it up with a chainsaw and drug it out of there, so. There was a good section of pine tree down there too, so.
it wasn't Mrs. Gray.
No, it's on the
No,
opposite
it's
side.
on the side, okay. Okay. Okay, Zach.
You have my report. There will be a recommendation coming up for the meeting for my final empty spot on the board.
Any questions for Ben?
Well, maybe not exactly for Zach, but the weather got warm. I've been in a couple of parks here in the last few days. I was over at Marshall's Park today. They haven't put their sunshades up yet, so it was actually kind of warm. Yeah. I know we did get the shades we're gonna install in ours in Newberry, right?
We have the big one. We just don't have the time or the staff right now to get it up.
Because I was over there yesterday, I guess, at Blueberry, and it was quite a crowd over there yesterday. Busy today. And I guess you're stabilizing that bank at the end over there. I thought they had one fence up along there. So. But anyway, it'd be nice to get the sunshades up as soon as you can fit it into the schedule, because I'll tell you, you get baked over there. You wouldn't believe it compared to the parts that do have a little bit of shade in it.
Yeah, we were, Jimmy and guys, they were ahead for fields for opening for all the athletic associations, and then these like kind of took away all. We had a lead on it, and we lost it with all the rain and storms and stuff that came through. So unfortunately, coming back to square one on fields and trying to get them all open and those guys going, because they were April 1. So last Saturday, they were all open for league play.
All right, well, I'll keep an eye on things when I'm over. Where we go to all the parks here, we go to North Park, we go to Marshall, so I'm kind of a connoisseur of these parks anymore. So I'll keep you in the loop. Thank you.
That's a good thing.
Yeah,
what happened with the musical flowers? I know the original, they were chosen originally because they would fit the base. But I understood from your report, they don't.
We need to figure out a plate that mends the two bolt patterns together. They fit the holes, but the plates don't match up like we thought they were going to.
Okay. So it's still gonna be put in, just gonna take a little more time.
Again, yeah, it's just a matter of finding what works for the bolt patterns that are in the ground versus what the new setup has.
Right. Any other questions for Zach? Jim, golf course has been busy. Ooh,
Yeah.
my goodness.
Been busy, relatively minor damage with the storm, but some sticks, just one small tree.
And it looks great.
Coming around. In the parks, there's, we've had some more different trees damaged and on trails and through Monday, we've done all that thing up. We had some collateral damage on the meadow, with the tree that came across the fence this past week.
Yeah.
Like Zach mentioned, the ball field with the 30-degree morning, so it's frozen, it doesn't thaw, then it rains and it's frozen. We've at least been able to, with the machine, get them raked smooth enough to play on. Just haven't been able to do any upgrading that we wanted to do, but they are playable. The baseball concession, some things we've done there for them. That building's getting older and so it needs some updating or we have plans eventually building a new one. No, everything overall as well. Gary's guys did a good job at the golf course with some patchwork on preparing for the overall top coat painting. So they've done a lot of good work there as well.
Yeah, they're tell you guys thanks too for the cleanup they did. There was an eastern hemlock tree I have back in my yard, right on the border between the golf course and my property. Actually, I'm not sure which property it's on, but it was split in Saturday storm and the guys came and cleaned it up too. So it was nicely done.
Just one comment about Limbo Park. If anyone's been there and noticed all the pink and orange little flags along Big Squiggly Creek. You may recall we have a program in conjunction with Penn State Extension Master Watershed Stewards Program. They're doing a 4-part educational series on watersheds, riparian buffer planting. And on April 22nd, volunteers will be planting over 300 trees and shrubs along Big Squiggly Creek to improve the riparian buffer there. And then we agreed that we would fence them in and maintain them. So I think they've got 5 volunteers signed up so far. I'll be there too. Hopefully we can get more. I attended North Allegheny's job fair and we got, I think we got about 24 people sign up to be volunteers. Let's see if any of them want to come out and do something.
Questions for Jim? Okay. Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you. Do a copy of our report. Here, just a few updates. We did talk about curb and gutter. So we won't rehash that. In addition to the tentative agenda that Max reviewed earlier, will be likely a motion for a list development bond reduction. We received that Monday. We will review the schedule to pay for the wearing course on the road this Friday, and weather dependent on the weather's supposed to be okay Friday. So that'll be on the agenda for 2 weeks from this evening. And that's probably it for updates from our report for this evening, unless there's questions of council.
No, we've had internal discussion, but I mean, talking about it.
Question?
You can do that in executive session.
Probably should. Probably should.
No.
No. Stormwater, Justin.
Okay, a couple updates. So for Ramblewood,
We did, with the Conservation District virtually last week, just to discuss some of the, provisions that the landowner had requested, and it seems like that would be, relatively easy change for the district to approve. We would need to re-permit that, so, we would need to make that submission. Next step there would be to talk to Lauren Nolfi at DEP regarding the sediment reductions with the modified design. She did get back to us today and is available to talk tomorrow. So we're gonna have that conversation tomorrow. I don't anticipate an issue with that. So that should be fine. And we'll get that moving. The one item of note is the access road that the landowner is requesting is located within an area of previously mapped red beds. So that's very bad soils. You don't want to mess with red beds unless you know what you're doing. That would definitely be an area that we would want our geotechs to take a look at and see what we can do there or what we should do there. So they would probably want to poke a couple holes in that hillside. It would probably be advisable to move that access road down the slope as far as we could, not cut right through the center of it. So we'll have to see what's all involved, and then I'll reach back out to Reach and we can talk to the landowner about that. And then the other update, just wanted to add some color to the storm sewer mapping. So the CCTV truck was out last week and just hit a couple highlights. The mapping is definitely off quite a bit. It's not very accurate. I think we knew that. Also, the storm sewer is definitely about a third of them had debris in them, to the point where you had probably time to go around. If a third of the borough has that kind of debris in it, probably some routine maintenance would be helpful. And the condition of the lines wasn't terrible, but there's definitely some maintenance required. They were able to pass most of the lines. I think there was definitely one or two that I want to get over to Public Works and maybe get on the list to replace and repair.
Finding mainly to whistle.
Yeah, it was mostly things.
Not great. It's not great. No. That portends badness.
So that's it for my updates.
Any questions?
Can I mention one thing? Justin, is there a way you can give me a update on the streets that they did and the ones that they did cancel?
Definitely. Yes.
Any other questions? Justin? Thank you. Max?
You have my written report. You have an item to talk about that's next on the agenda here, the eminent domain ordinance. This is related to the Dockley property next to Blueberry. Part of the structure of potential sale as well as donation does require the condemnation process to at least be initiated. So we put together the ordinance. We don't have it on the agenda just now, but if the council, we can put it on. This would be similar to the last one we did for the Graff property. Does not commit us following through. It does address that we would be getting a deed in lieu of condemnation, which is exempt from transfer taxes. This one is a smaller amount than the Graff property, but because he is do some level of donation with the property, needed to get this done. We have been in negotiations with property owner and their attorney, exchanged drafts of the agreement of sale. That is moving along. Once again, this is one where they're mostly purchasing an option for about a year or so. It's called an option, but we are making a payment because we do need to replenish our land purchasing funds. We'll see grants there.
Questions for Max? All right. The Dockery property, is that it? That's.
Yeah, we went ahead and applied for the grants. We
Yeah,
haven't had
right.
an agreement yet, but we can have.
20 ordinance.
Already, that was
Yeah,
the
covered
municipal
that.
plans.
Yeah. Schedule spring road tour. Let's see. Boy.
I'm thinking maybe minivans are in greater supply now than these.
Yeah,
Dennis loved the school bus.
I mean, what better way to test the roads by taking a thing with no shock absorber?
Yeah, see,
down the road?
Cars wouldn't do that except we got lost.
Yeah.
So it's hard to keep them together. That was the math, really. Yeah.
You can, yeah.
It was well intentioned.
Hey, John, sheep is, no, sheep.
Oh, yeah, right.
I need a higher school. So I said it that way, you just look at it. Unless someone has a question on my report. There's no report, actually.
Lots of training going on again, man. It's amazing.
Always.
A lot of hours.
So we wrote to them in.
Yeah. Wait,
We could do it by email if you want, send out some options. It's probably the easiest way to do it.
we usually do it in this meeting, but,
Saturdays in May. For last year's tour, I only took about an hour.
you know.
Pretty quick.
I think we did it earlier. We started actually started paving.
CD, there's some. This weekend's Avon.
The first week in May won't work.
I think it's fun, the food and after. I'm not good on the first.
It's a quick update.
May 20, you talking about April 22nd?
21st.
Yeah, that's my nine.
But yeah, what about the
22nd.
May 2nd would work for me.
I'll just be late to the riparian buffer planning, but there will be plenty of trees.
May 22nd.
No,
April.
April
Birthday.
22nd. April.
April's 22nd.
I mean, April 22nd.
How long do you put?
You good, Tom?
Yeah, it works.
8 o'clock? 8 o'clock is done, I'll have donuts and gluten-free items.
Well, then I'll have to be there.
All right, let's get this out of the way, so you email was. Fire company, member
I
tax,
got the information. So it's on the.
in 2016, there was a state act passed, I think it was Act 172. It was passed as an incentive to retain and develop volunteers in the statewide volunteer fire system. We took a look at that, and because of the administration hassle and the fact that it only covered certain groups of people, we abandoned the thought. The council took a look at it, the fire company took a look at it. But then in 2020, Act 76, I believe, 91, amended the original act and allowed for granting of a tax incentive based on either earned income and or real estate tax. And so that opens the door again to allow some recognition and to attract new firefighters throughout the state because it is a statewide critical issue. 15 years ago, there were close to 280,000, as I recall, firefighters, volunteer firefighters. It's now about 40,000. So it's an issue and a challenge to Franklin Park. And we've done exceedingly well, by the way. We have managed through some good efforts by our various committees to attract some young people. And so we're in better shape than most. But when you look at the fact that last year there was in excess of 5,500 volunteer hours put in by the members of the Franklin Park Volunteer Fire Company, it seems to me that we really need to reconsider the fact that there may be some logical tax incentive for the members. I would like to ask council to, if the council would agree, to have Reed take a look at and maybe meet with the chief, fire chief, to take a look at whether or not this would make sense for Franklin Park. The issue has risen again because a number of the fire members have said, you know, some of the surrounding communities have these tax incentives. Why don't we have it? And it is a valid question. And if you look at the data for the other firefighters around, fire companies around who have developed it, it would be a number of people who might participate, who would qualify, might be 50% of those active members. And if we would apply that formula to Franklin Park, you're probably talking somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 to 25 active members might qualify for a reasonable program that might pay them anywhere between $20 up to possibility of maybe 500 or even potentially more, although I don't think. So the annual cost perhaps to Franklin Park would be something in the order of 10 to 15, maybe $20,000 at the outset. So I think that's a look. It would have the potential of benefiting me and Luke personally, so we wouldn't vote on it. And I really wanted to bring it to council's attention, and I would like council to, if they would be agreeable, to have Reed meet with the chief, in fact, the president of the fire company, to talk about that as a possibility. And make a recommendation to council.
I'd just like to say that we're so fortunate, you know, with our fire company. And it's, I think all of us know, we have 2 fire companies now that have been decertified because they just can't get the firefighters there anymore. It's East Rock. There's one more, Bellevue. And the job, the volunteer job has changed so much over the years because of population gain and housing, and you guys are amazing. And something needs to be done to support them more than we do today.
Thanks, Dennis. I think that it's a positive PR thing, perhaps more than quantifiable cash benefit, if you would. I think it's really a positive image, and it's a way of saying thanks to these guys that get up at 2 o'clock in the morning.
And you're out for 6 or 7 hours sometimes.
Last Saturday was an example. We had 9 calls, trees down, and it was kind of nice at first because it was 67 degrees, but when it fell to 40 and the wind chill factor, it was pretty bad.
Well, John, I think it's a good idea. You know, everybody else is up. I always say it would be great to outreach. Take a look at that and report back to everybody.
It'd be great. If anybody else would like to join Reed in that process, I'm sure you'd be welcome. But That'd be great, thanks. Good thing. Next on the agenda.
Just on that, I remember the last time we talked, we talked about a whole slew of options.
Yes.
Yeah.
In other words, it would be, maybe some reduction in earned income tax, but that wouldn't affect anybody. There was a whole series of different ways.
And that was the exact issue, because the original law only allowed for that, one or the other. The 2020 law is either or,
Okay.
or both. And very specific.
It'd probably be simpler to do it if it was just a real estate tax. Induction or something.
Yeah, the problems, a real estate tax reduction, renters don't get it.
Yeah,
And it's not school district.
right, but hopefully renters who are volunteers would have some earned income. So if you have a combined tax, then you cover that. And you're right, Tom, it's true, that was the big issue, but 7, 8 years ago when we bought that.
I think we were all believing it was something that we should do, but there was, at the time, there was no good structure to set it up. It was going to be very cumbersome, I think, to manage.
Well, yeah, there is a lot on the volunteer fire company in terms of making sure that members meet the requirements, so that it takes some coordination.
Well, it does, and interesting enough, we have a very precise system already in place for measuring not only points that were earned, but the hours actually spent. So we're ahead of that game administratively.
I agree, and I echo Dennis's sentiments that, I mean, we could ask for a better group of volunteer firemen than we have in this borough. So, I mean, it's,
We're very sharp guys.
They're really sharp. I actually happened to see Dave Motor at the Marshall Park today with his grid. We talked about a half hour this afternoon. He's a real down-to-earth guy.
He is a super guy.
So the program is really a incentive for the volunteer firefighter, the individual, right? That's.
Yes, it's the individual, right? That's actually for the individual, right? Okay. Managers report. Nothing. Okay. Council and mayor.
So I've been hard at work on my wish list of stuff to go over with Max and see what can be changed in the land use ordinances and things like that. It's
Okay.
very large, and so I didn't want to overwhelm us, and I didn't get it done for this agenda anyway. So I'm giving you kind of a heads up that I think what I want to do is get it over to you, and we figure out how to work it, and it may be something where we have to do some breakout sessions. Something like that. I'm the chair.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, but I don't want to convene something. I mean, it's important to talk to everybody about what's going on. So, yeah, so what would you think would be the most efficient use of time? I mean, I feel like getting it over to Max to see to give him a heads up on what I'm going to be asking, or, you know what I'm saying? And just to figure out how to handle it efficiently. Because it could eat up a lot of time. I mean, these are notes over 3 years that I've taken and thought about.
Yeah, I mean, the overall concern is the development.
Yes, that's definitely in there in waves,
And how to modify it so that we can do the things that we've seen that have gone wrong.
That's what I've captured, and I think it's gonna be very efficient, like you said, John. I mean,
So that we don't have to go through the process of somebody making an application, then turning them down and losing in the end. So let's get it at that level, which I think is critical.
Yeah, and I think that's what was most important, and that came through crystal clear in our last. Kind of, so that's what this is all about. This is looking at the stuff where people were concerned, but the ordinance didn't capture it, or there may be some language that wasn't quite agreed to between planning commission and Tim. It's all in there, and it's big, so I want to make certain that they do it efficiently.
And I think the caveat that Max, I think, pointed out is don't make it so onerous that you open it up to the world.
Well, yeah, and that's an obvious kind of restriction too. If you have it too overly restrictive, then basically it's going to be demolished, and it means every place is now open to it. So, yeah, I'm excited about getting started on it. I think there's a lot of work, but, I just wanted to kind of give you kind of a.
Well, maybe a place to start then is a summary of your thoughts.
Yeah.
On it.
Yeah.
Who else is on the land use?
That's great. Probably go bottom of our little work package.
Yeah, right.
It's okay. It's Brian, Dr. Lee.
Brian, Dr. Lee, and Tom. Okay.
It's my summaries already, all my, like, I've got my questions, so I just need to like figure out how to. Like we did with the little tree buffer that we worked on.
So, yeah, right. Oh, yeah, we.
Yeah, I mean, we could do that, but and the thing we do is just consider going to ALOM, learn a lot of cutting edge or state art types of things, and then Boroughs Association always puts out, effective planning commission, updating ordinance, just sort of, not CLEs, unfortunately, I don't think you can get credit for it, but that's sort of guide that process.
That's gonna be great.
Spot fixing.
I would think we want to get that committee in together pretty soon.
Yeah, if that's okay with you. I mean, do we have a 6 o'clock for the May work session, or are we just picking up with something else?
Is that open?
Sorry, I'm gonna try and reopen the tab I did. We have personnel coming up on the 19th. Nothing is scheduled for May, either meeting in May.
We can do a 6 o'clock before the work session. That'll be okay with everybody. Not everybody, obviously, the more people come. It's better.
Everybody's invited.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll take my notes and turn them into a little agenda, so we can kind of figure out how we're gonna work through this.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
Just want to bring up the whole sidewalk, but walking issues that I'm noticing. Actually, people reached out, so I think a lot of time I brought it up. Nicholson Road, starting to see people now walk on the thinner side of the road, between Taylor Ridge and the new Deerfield. Now that the weather's gotten even warmer, starting to see a lot more people now crossing over and walking along the guardrail. So I don't know if there's any like communication between Taylor Ridge and Deerfield developer.
Tim has sent a letter to Taylor Ridge, to find out where they stand. Yeah,
I think there was a deadline. I want to say early July or something.
Yeah.
Even if it's like a dirt path or something, that's probably safer than being on the actual road. But the volume's getting higher. So.
Mayor.
Yeah, two things. As I said earlier, I renewed the mayor's monarch butterfly pledge. And that's a continuation from last year. So we have several points that we've already been working on. As far as making the environment better with butterfly population is down about 90% from what it was years ago. So this monarch butterfly is having issues with surviving. So we're doing our part in Franklin Park. And last year stimulated a great deal of interest outside and here with people who reside who want to do what they can do in their backyards to help the butterfly with milkweed and all sorts. So anyway, I did that. And the other thing I wanted to ask council about is on the third week of July, I attend the Pennsylvania State Mayor's Conference. It's going to be in Lancaster this year. It's an educational conference with many speakers that we bring in to help us understand the job of mayor and how to be a better mayor, actually. And so there's a cost to that of $250, and council always supported that. With some expenses involved, it generally comes back into about $500. That's the cost of Borough. I had a Zoom meeting with several of the mayors this morning, and of course, like everything else, all of our expenses are going up, so we're trying to do a little better with income. And so I was thinking, if I could get council to consider, one of the very expensive ways to demonstrate that we support Pennsylvania mayors. There's a workshop book that we do for the workshops. And we talked this morning about maybe we could get a sponsor for that workshop book, and the cost would be $800. The workshop, and it would be, we would be in the workshop, Franklin Park Borough supporting it, and it would also get some other promotion too. So I'm just throwing that out to council as a thought consideration. For $800, we could do something that would show our support for Pennsylvania State.
Thoughts? So would you recommend?
Oh, I do, sure. That's what I'm doing. Yeah, it's an organization that works hard, for state issues.
Feeling that an advertising budget.
What was your question?
I just asked if we had an advertising budget.
Oh,
Indirect advertising.
Yeah.
I think it's probably a good idea.
yeah, and it's also, if you decided, I'm good too with a no, but when we talked about this morning, and there's other ways of, this is one of the less expensive ways.
Sounds right to me. Council.
Yeah, I think it's a positive. I mean, you're building relationships and there's going to be funding, which is a benefit, long-term benefit to the, so definitely think it's a good idea.
We're good?
We're good.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And, yeah, John Lee.
Kind of like I kind of same as Ryan, and I really appreciate that you send us email regarding the update in the ordinance for the land development. If I understand correctly, the ordinance that we're still using, we're using it from probably 1 or 2 decades ago, and I believe a lot of things have changed. So that's why I believe that sometimes like a balance between what the developer want and what the our community want, and so sometimes it's quite a bit. So I believe that right now it's time and to really work on this one, to try to at least and come up with some new ordinance and that can fit kind of like not only I would say like to make the developer and not so hesitant, but still we need to come up with something that can protect the community, to help the people living in this place. I still tend to recall what I experienced when I first joined the Borough Council. And we have some sort of argument. It's very interesting. So finally, I just feel like probably right now, I've been councilman for how long? 3 years and 3 months. Finally, and we are able to look at our ordinance of land development. That's a good progress, and I believe that is a first step that we can make our community, keep our community safe, and also protect people living here. So this will be good stuff. So this is my comment. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Tom.
A couple quick things. Going through our packet, we had a report from the ambulance authority in there, which we typically get each month. And I know it had a chart in here, but I don't know that I've ever seen it presented this way, that has the call locations for the month of February. And what I found interesting was that, 657 calls for the month, 75% of those were from in the campus.
That's correct.
And only 39 from Franklin Park, 491 from McCandless. So the utilization, I don't know if this is just a snapshot of 1 month, but
It's pretty typical.
is it, this isn't always part of the report. I don't know.
No, it's been other reports, but I think it just began recently.
Okay, this is the first time it jumped out. I mean, I was looking at the percentages, but I was shocked that, Franklin Park was one of the founding members. I mean, Marshall had almost the same number that we did. Pine actually had a few more, but I mean, the scale was just overwhelmingly utilizes it way more than we did.
Yeah, I think it's primarily because there are a lot of homes for the elderly in Kansas, a lot more than there are in Franklin Park, and that's where the primary focus is. You're correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Tom, what dovetails nicely with that is there was a report in the news. I don't remember which of the little newspapers, and it specifically talked about how there was a positive outlook for the finances of the ambulance authority. You saw the piece. Yeah, exactly.
I missed that report.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I just thought it just jumped out of me when I was reading it.
It's a valid point. To that end, I have invited our representative, Tom Stein, and Jamie, but Jamie's going to be out of the country at our next meeting, just to discuss where we are with the ambulance authority and the progress that has been made, and to support our continued donations that we agreed to for our budget and move forward from there. So they, both Christel and Tom Stein will attend the next pre-meeting action on the 19th.
Well, I just wonder if we should make this, like, I could drop my Carl note in over at McCandless and just say, because he was kind of on the fence the last time I talked to him about this. Asked to see if he could, I mean, McCandless obviously that should be stepping up to do something.
Yeah, now, they did, and it's in your packet, they did use their RAD money, $16,000 to donate for the first time to the ambulance authority. So in all fairness, they did do that.
Tom's point, just equity wise, it's great that we're supporting our ambulance authority, but it seems like from a utilization standpoint, there's definitely an inequity and imbalance here. Like, it jumps off the page. Yeah.
Would it make sense to request this data monthly? Some general?
Well, I believe that's the intent. at this point in time.
That wasn't the first month.
Okay.
Has this been in there before?
Not for a long time, but I think it has.
Okay, I haven't.
I've seen others.
I've seen it, I mean, I've seen others.
Lately, I think you're right, it was Franklin Park.
Sometimes I'm looking at profit loss and this was on its own separate page here. I think, it's really
Stands out.
seems out, yeah.
Let's see if it's a trend that continues.
Yeah.
Continuously have some reduction.
Well, I just think that, obviously with the financial issues there, I think the camels, if they have that kind of utilization, they ought to step up and, they ought to consider contributing something, even more than even their revenue.
If you saw the consultant report, they believe they contribute 5 times more than we do now. They believe that when they sell the ambulance authority a gallon of gas for $2, when they pay $2 for it, that's a donation. It's not.
Well, I haven't seen that report, but.
They're getting reimbursed for the cost. And the same with any work they do in the ambulances, they get reimbursed 100%. But then they list it as an in-kind donation. But it's not. So that's how they convince themselves that that's true.
Yeah, and ambulance authority is a 501c3, right? That's it's a foundation, right? So they have to report all
authority.
Yeah, so they have to report all their donations in kind or otherwise. So, I don't, that would be
20
interesting.
years, we never reported it.
Yeah.
Times have changed there.
I had a question I was gonna ask, another question I was gonna ask Tim about the report that he puts in here, but Tim's not here this evening. This goes back quite maybe a year when we talked about the Yoko's house. Yeah, what about the other house on Orange Road? There were two houses that were lumped together, but whatever happened with the one on Orange Road?
He's pursuing that right now. I just took about 40 photographs of it the other day. In the process of moving forward with that.
Okay, yeah, there hasn't been any change to our packet from Tim's packet.
He's taking one at a time. You look at one, is now looking like it's got to a solution. And now he's working on the next.
Okay, and the last item, I had one brief conversation, probably the day or two after our last meeting with Jim Lawrence about the work up on Fountain Hills and Cole Road. And, you know, apparently, maybe this is a question for the utilities, but it seems to me like the work they're doing up there appears to be like Armstrong Cable. I guess my question would be that they're not a franchisee of Franklin Park. Are they really allowed to be running fiber down through all of our residents' front yards just to connect in? Armstrong's not in Franklin Park.
I remember we did a,
So,
we have a public hearing for consolidated.
Right. So I guess my only question is, I mean, they may have to go through Franklin Park to tie in Marshall and Pine or something, but you know, there's one down our neighbor's front yards and
In the right of way.
in the right of way of our roads, when they don't have an agreement with us. I'm pretty sure it's Armstrong Cable. That we're putting green boxes for fiber in people's front yards up there, which Jim said he absolutely didn't want a green plastic box in his front yard. So I don't know, it just might be something to look into. Do they even have the right to be in here when they're not a franchisee of the
Yeah,
borough?
I mean, that, yeah. The reason why we sign these agreements is because they take up, maybe it's a minuscule part, but they take a finite amount of right of way.
Yeah. If they, you know, if you're familiar with the upper end of Cole there, I mean, where Jim Lawrence lives, that's the first 6 homes going in are Franklin Park, and then the whole back of that development is Pine.
On Jim Street.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
yeah, Jim's he's like the next to the last home in Franklin Park. And then down over the hill right behind it is the Canlis. There's all 4 of them meet in the 4 corners, like the Colorado, whatever it is out west there. But that actually exists right in, right over in the area.
Opening any streets or doing anything?
The one call, no, I think it was Armstrong. I think it was just cable. The one call showed cable communications company.
Utilities, can they cooperate with the rural right away? Can they go, oh yeah, no problem, you guys can get in there?
I've never heard of that.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be exploited if they did.
Well, when they came on, then they go out Cole Road, it's still in Franklin Park, and head towards Marshall, which is at the far end of it.
Well, I have to ask them, how else could they get their cable? Like, what would they do? What would be the appropriate procedure to come to us?
They could just do a private easement across everybody's, but they never want to do that. They just want to be in the public right of way as a public utility. But taking up space, and that's not an essential, though communication is becoming one. It's cable TV. It doesn't have the same rights as a power line.
Serving, but in fact, they were no right to use money.
Went there, yeah.
I just wonder how they could have gotten to where they needed to get to without going through the.
There's other ways.
Okay,
There's other ways.
Do they have an agreement with consolidated?
that's what I raised with Matt.
Yeah, I've never heard of a piggyback of something like that. I mean,
guess-
unless they were sort of subbed out and saying, you know, maybe there's if it's Armstrong's truck, you know, they can do the work and it's gonna be a.
Well, it's not even clear that it's Armstrong, it's somebody put the underground fiber in, but it's only in those 2, and I don't see anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, the only other cable companies up in that area would be Consolidated and Xfinity or Comcast. You know, what's really unusual is the trucks and the equipment, none of it has a company's name on it.
Well, that's what might, I mean, that might be the contractor that's doing it, and maybe it's not Armstrong, maybe it is.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I know Jim,
Sounds like a team.
Jim was real up in the arms, like these people are just coming in, they don't tell who they are, they don't have their names on their trucks, they won't answer any questions, they're just digging up my yard and they're digging up his yard, I mean, just right onto his front door.
The right way.
Yeah.
Which everybody always says is there.
Right.
Like somebody shows up and says, well, it kind of is, but it kind of.
We can back and digress.
Yeah, you have to
We
cut,
have
yeah.
contact.
Yeah, you have to cut the grass, but we can dig under it.
Hey, Tom?
Yeah.
Tom, I just called you 2 days ago, actually, just to check on his health and have a conversation. He brought all this up with me.
Right.
And, he's planning on being here on the 19th to address council.
All right, well,
2 weeks to find an answer.
Anything else?
That's the idea.
no, that's about.
Luke, here's Doug.
Yeah, I'll try to be quick. Number one, next comprehensive plan joint steering committee meeting is on the 10th of May. 6:30 in the Ohio Township Nature Center, if anybody wants to go. As if, excuse me. Any issues for pass along? I'm sure you would too. The last one. Who owns Borough Field? Is it Westview? Water?
Yes, it's their land, but do we have an actual lease on it or just an agreement? I think it's just an agreement
Just
that
an
it's
agreement
ours.
that we can use it.
Yeah, I mean, we do it's ours. We do everything on it.
That's what.
You gonna complain about center field?
No.
Okay.
People always ask,
Yeah, it's,
and that's what I thought the case was.
yeah, because it was ours, I believe, when we sold that property, there was an understanding that we would continue to maintain and use that facility as a recreation area.
This year we're gonna have.
As far as I understood, with Bill was, we maintain it, but we don't put excess amount of money, because at any time they could always, if they want to expand and take it out. I mean, there is gonna be, our dugouts are, there is some issues, with, the dugouts are old, and who's, how much money we put into it, but they could down the road.
All right, thanks, that's all I have.
Couple of things real quick. Number one, who is going to attend the fire company banquet on April 15th? I need to give them my report. Dennis? Luke, you'll be there, right?
No, I am not. Unfortunately, it's my grandson's first birthday party that afternoon and in the evening. Any other Saturday.
Brian, you day or Dr. Lee? Okay.
It's Monday morning,
Pardon?
is tomorrow morning, I think.
Yes, if you can text me.
I'll text you.
Yeah, great.
It's Avon based.
Yeah.
Yes, we get back that afternoon. In festivities begin 5:30, 6 o'clock.
Well, look at I had a little change of plans. All of a sudden we realized we were double booked for Little League.
Yeah.
I've been asked to go to shits and so Luke and I are going up Friday and coming back Friday night.
Oh, okay. Okay,
So we can be here for Little League on Saturday.
okay, yeah, because all of us, yeah, okay. I see, we get you, but. I guess, yeah.
She's taking care of it.
Oh, yes, that's the first person we came to.
And you're gonna be.
You're gonna have Thursday night, you think?
Yes.
Their schedule out there.
Yeah.
Is it out?
Yeah.
Does everyone have it?
Just came on, yeah.
Yeah, they sent emails this morning.
It's not really exciting,
Okay.
except for the park finding. I don't like that.
Yes.
And we do have to agree that David Schweitzer, is the right person for the TAC, is going to verify.
That's good.
Yeah, he's great.
And we can find members, which is great.
We're up at 5 now, or?
That's three.
And we have
We'll
five.
be at 5, assuming Annie still wants to be a member. She hasn't.
You're allowed to go.
Please, but I'll probably do something, anything with technology, I'm probably there for, so.
A lot of great stuff.
Yeah.
I'll reach out to him in the morning. We'll run the background check. We can get him on for it. I'm not too sure.
You missed anybody? Chief, you get a second chance since I missed you one.
Well, good.
Okay, I guess that's it, executive session.
Should I was gonna say, when it comes to Bliss, I'm not gonna be involved in any
Right.
executive session stuff. Just to make it public.
We'll take that for last.
Yeah, and then I'll leave it when we're done with the other stuff.
Okay.
You
Okay, thanks, everybody.
Every 7:30, you'll be, I should be at the station at 9.